I sorted donations at a charity warehouse. I needed cash and hated getting dragged into cops and drama. And my plan was to skim valuables from bags before they hit inventory, crush the rest in the baler, and keep my head down. My role put me on the intake line with gloves and box cutters, and my motive was simple: money, privacy, no involvement. People hear charity and picture clean hands and kind faces. It's a metal belt, ripped bags, and somebody's whole life dumped out in a stinking pile. The line didn't care if you were hungover or broke or trying to be better. The line cared about speed. If you slowed it down, you got yelled at and everybody stared, and I couldn't afford either. I learned fast where people hide money. Jacket pockets, old purses, folded bills inside books, rings dropped into coin jars. I'd touch it, feel the shape, slide it into my glove, and keep moving. Small stuff, quiet stuff. I wasn't trying to get rich. I just didn't want my lights shut off. I also had old warrants from dumb mistakes that never died. Nothing violent, but enough that if a cop got my name, my whole life would get peeled open in public. So I kept my head down and did my job like I didn't exist. One afternoon, a contractor showed up through the dock instead of the front, like he didn't want anyone watching. He dropped a stack of black trash bags and said it was from a clean-out. No boxes, no loose donations, just heavy bags tied tight. My lead, Eddie, started talking shit right away, joking loud so everyone would hear, asking what kind of freak bags their own garbage. The contractor didn't laugh. He didn't even look offended. He stared at the floor and kept rubbing his fingers together like he had grit stuck there. Eddie pointed at me like I was equipment. "You're fast. Take it," he said, and when I didn't jump, he added, "Don't be a bitch. We're behind." I dragged the bags over, cut the first one, shook out clothes, kept moving. The second was more of the same. Then I grabbed the third, and the smell hit me hard, sour metal like rust and old sweat. I froze with it half on the belt. Eddie barked from across the floor, "Stop fucking around. We don't have all day." I swallowed and sliced the bag open. Right on top was a hoodie, stiff as cardboard. My glove stuck to it in a couple spots like dry glue. Dried brown in the fabric, not a small stain, not a spill, a lot. Under that was a cheap flip phone wrapped in tape, screen cracked, tape dirty, hair caught under the edges. Then a crumpled flyer slid out and slapped my wrist. I flattened it on the table like my hands were working without me. A face. Young. The word missing in big block letters. A number. A date. I read it once, then again, because my brain kept trying to turn it into something else. Then I looked back at the hoodie. Same color as the photo. Same cheap logo on the chest. My stomach did that slow drop where it feels like your organs shift and don't land right. I stared at the phone like it could ring. I didn't turn it on. I didn't call anyone. I picture my name in a report, my locker searched, my hours pulled, my ID copied, my old warrants resurfacing. I pictured cops walking through my apartment, opening drawers like they owned my life, finding whatever they felt like calling suspicious. That's how it goes when you've got a record and no polish. They don't need much. They just need a reason to look, and once they look, you're never clean again. Eddie wandered over, sniffing for drama like he always did. He saw the edge of the flyer and reached for it. I snapped my hand over it. "Don't touch my table," I said. My voice came out sharp, and the second it left my mouth, I knew I just lit a fuse. Eddie's smile dropped. He leaned in, close enough that I smelled energy drink on his breath. "What's in there?" he said, low, like he was trying to trap me. "It eat fast." "Nothing. Some kids lost and found crap." He didn't buy it. He stood there, staring at me, waiting for me to blink first. I could have handed it to him. I could have dragged him to the office and forced the right thing. But then it wouldn't be a thing I controlled anymore. It would be a thing that controlled me. Eddie finally straightened up and tossed out a loud joke to the room, acting like he didn't care, but his eyes stayed on me as he walked away. Now I had a new problem: being watched. I clenched the flyer in my fist and stared at the shred bin. The shred bin wasn't for evidence. It was for junk paper, and nobody checked it unless it jammed. I told myself excuses in a rush because thinking felt like choking. Maybe it wasn't real, maybe it was old, Maybe the hoodie got donated by mistake. Maybe the phone was garbage. Maybe the missing person already got found. The real reason was simpler and uglier. I didn't want cops near me. I didn't want my name attached to anything. I tossed the flyer into the shred bin, shoved the hoodie and phone deeper into the bag, and dragged the whole thing to the baler before my hands could start shaking too hard. The baler gate was open for the next load. I jammed the bag inside. The hoodie snagged on the metal lip and a brown stain flashed again, right where a chest would be, and for a split second I almost pulled it back out. Then I heard Eddie laugh across the floor, and the sound pissed me off and scared me at the same time, and I shoved harder. I slammed the gate shut and hit the button. The machine groaned and crushed it. Plastic tightened. Fabric folded into itself. Whatever was in there became a hard brick. The sound was slow and wrong, like something getting smothered. Eddie yelled, "Don't break the baler, asshole," like that was the only thing worth caring about. When the press released, I dragged the bale out and wrapped it like I always did. I wrote the code on the side with my black marker, quick and sloppy, and stacked it with the others. My hands kept moving because if I stopped, I'd start thinking, and thinking meant vomiting. After that, I lived tight. I jumped at the warehouse phone. I watched the dock door every time a uniform dropped off a donation. Eddie kept poking me, trying to start fights, telling people I was hiding something. One day he got in my face, and I shoved him back. A supervisor yanked us apart and threatened to fire both of us, then stared at me like he already knew I was trouble. I nodded, apologized, swallowed my pride, went right back to the line. I didn't sleep right. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that flyer face and felt my own hand feeding it into the shredder. A month later, they short-staffed the thrift store and stuck me out front folding shirts. That day, a plainclothes detective came in, badge on his belt, eyes scanning the place like he was counting exits. He talked to the manager in the back, then walked straight to the mystery bales we sold to resellers as a gimmick. He said he wanted one for a training demo. My mouth went dry. Training demo meant cutting it open on a table, showing rookies what gets missed, what gets buried, what people try to pretend isn't there. He picked a bale and rolled it out. As it turned, I saw my marker code, my handwriting, my little slash through the zero. My stomach flipped so hard I almost dropped the shirt in my hands. I kept folding anyway, corners sharp, hands steady by pure force. Eddie was on register and laughed loud. "Cops buying our trash now. That's hilarious," and I wanted to rip his throat out for making it feel casual. I just smiled like a normal person and kept my head down. The detective paid, loaded the bale into his trunk, and shut it like it was luggage. He never looked at me. That was the worst part. If he stared, at least I'd know he knew. Instead, he just drove off with my mistake, quiet and official. I finished my shift on autopilot, nodding at coworkers, acting like my chest wasn't full of nails. That night, I tried to convince myself it was over, that the detective would cut it open, pull out nothing but rotten clothes and move on. My brain wouldn't let me. I kept replaying the moment I slammed that gate, like I could reach back and stop my own hands. At work, I started checking the inventory screen too much, looking for any note, any hold, any little flag next to my batch numbers. I caught my supervisor watching me, and he snapped, "You stealing again?" Like it was a joke, but his eyes weren't joking. Even Eddie calmed down, which freaked me out more than his mouth, because it meant he felt something wrong in the air too. Every time the front bell rang, I expected uniforms, and every time was just some lady hunting for cheap curtains. I went home and sat on my couch in the dark, waiting for my phone to light up, waiting for a knock that didn't come. Days passed. Nothing. Weeks. Still nothing. I don't know if that bale got open and logged and solved something, or if it got shrugged off as thrift store grossness and tossed. I don't even know if the kid on that flyer is alive. I only know what I did with the one thin chance I had to do the right thing and keep my name out of it at the same time. I kept folding shirts at my station, smiling at coworkers, feeling that brick leave the building like a delayed scream. I was driving rideshare on night shift for rent money. I hated drunk passengers after 2 vomit cleanups, and my plan was to keep the app clean cancel fast, and trips early, avoid fees and bad ratings. My role was the guy behind the wheel with a dash cam and GPS, and my motive was selfish. Get paid, go home, no mess. That night, I did the routine. Shake the floor mats, wipe the back seat, tuck puke bags in the door pocket, check the dash cam angle, start the app. I kept telling myself I wasn't a babysitter. I was a steering wheel with a rating. The first cleanup was a blazer guy who promised he was fine and then packed my seat seam with sour beer and wings the second we hit a bump. The second was a girl who tried to aim for the bag and missed like it was funny. Both times I pulled over, both times I used my own towels, both times I took pictures like I was filing a case, and both times support treated me like I was scamming them. Clearer photos, more detail. This might not qualify. Days later, a partial fee and a warning about too many claims. So yeah, I started driving like everybody was a threat to my upholstery and my account. I canceled on bar pickups if I saw the wobble. I ended trips early if someone got loud. I kept the car locked until I confirmed names. I did everything except the one thing that mattered when it counted. Her request came in near a strip of bars and a neon taco place. Short distance, surge pay. I hovered over cancel, then accepted because rent doesn't care about my morals. She was on the curb laughing at nothing, mascara dragged down her cheeks. Purse half open, stuff poking out like someone had dug through it. She got in fast, slammed the door, patted her dead phone like it betrayed her. She slurred an address, said the street wrong, corrected it, then went quiet. No charger, no friend, no please, just her and me in the app. I pulled away and watched her in the mirror. She couldn't keep her head up. The smell hit quick, tequila, sweet and stale, plus that sharp sweat smell that isn't party. It's I don't feel safe. Party drunks get loud. Fear drunks get small and grab handles. Halfway there, she sagged and went out. Full drop. Her purse slid to the floor and spilled receipts and a lipstick. One shoe scraped off and bumped the door panel. I didn't stop to fix it. I didn't look back long. I kept the car smooth and thought, don't puke in my car. Then her breathing changed. She sucked air like she'd been sprinting. Her head jerked up, eyes wide and wet and wrong. She stared past me, then at my hands, then at the lock button like she was reading instructions. Her fingers clawed the door handle. She whispered something I didn't catch. Then she gagged hard and leaned forward like she was about to dump it all over my center console. I turned into a gas station lot because it was lit and it had cameras and it felt like a place I could dump responsibility. I parked under the canopy and twisted around. I snapped my fingers and said, "Hey, wake up." She blinked slow and off. She tried to sit and couldn't. She made a small sound that wasn't a word. Her hand grabbed my arm and I pulled back. The second she touched me, she stopped being a ride and turned into a problem with a name. I looked around. A guy was pumping gas and glanced over once, then looked away fast. The cashier behind the glass didn't move. Nobody wants eye contact with trouble at 2 a.m. The trip timer kept ticking. My rating sat there like an eye. I pictured vomit in the door seam. I pictured an accusation. I pictured the platform sending me the canned email. We take reports seriously. And my account gone while rent still hit my bank. I'd seen it happen to other drivers. One claim and you're done. No appeal, just community standards. I hated her for making me picture it, and I hated myself for hating her. She mumbled the address again and shook her head like she didn't know if it was real. Her eyes kept sliding to the window like she expected someone outside. My brain offered one clean choice, call 911. Then my hands did the dirty one. I ended the trip early in the app. I tapped through, dragged the pin to the correct block, and marked her dropped off. Then I rolled out and drove 2 streets over because I knew the GPS log and dash cam time could be lined up if anyone cared enough. I told myself I was just protecting myself from a system. I told myself a system made me do it. I stopped on a residential block with porch lights and parked cars. Wind pushed grit across the street. I opened her door and let the cold hit her like a bucket. She jolted and tried to pull herself together. It didn't work. She slid forward and her bare foot hit the salted pavement. She hissed and jerked it back. Her other shoe stayed on, crooked. She looked down, confused, like her foot wasn't hers. She tried to stand and her knee folded. She reached for my handle and missed, fingers scraping air. She tried again and hit the door, soft, like she didn't even have strength to knock. Her lips moved and I caught one word. Please. That should have snapped me into being a person. Instead, I got meaner inside, like a cornered animal. I grabbed her elbow and hauled her up enough to get her out. I didn't guide her gently. I moved her like a mess I wanted off my floor. She stumbled out barefoot, swaying. She turned toward the brighter street and took 2 steps, then stopped like the world spun. She looked back at my headlights like they were a doorway. In my head, I argued like a courtroom. She's near lights. The gas station is close. She'll find it. She's an adult. If I call 911, I'll be stuck here and end up in a report. If I help her and she says I touched her, I'm done. If she pukes, I'm out money. If she dies, that's not on me because I didn't do anything. That last one is the sickest lie, because I didn't do anything is still a choice. I got in, locked the doors, and drove off while she was still standing there wobbling. In the mirror, I saw her turn the wrong way for a second, then correct, then stop again. I told myself the cold would wake her up. I told myself the cold would make her move. I told myself she'd find the station because it was bright and obvious, like winter give a fuck about obvious. I finished my shift like a machine. I snapped at a guy eating fries in my back seat. I kicked another out for refusing his seatbelt, and he screamed at me in the street. I almost swung on him. Then I didn't, because jail would have been easier than what I already had in my chest. I went home and sat in silence, because any sound felt like judgment. The next day, I saw the headline. A woman found behind dumpsters, frozen overnight. 1 shoe missing. They didn't show her face. They didn't need to. My stomach dropped like an elevator cable snapped. I watched the clip again and again, not because I wanted it, but because my brain kept hunting for an escape hatch. Maybe it wasn't her. Maybe she got picked up. Maybe she made it inside somewhere and then wandered back out. Maybe the report mentioned a nearby gas station. That line punched me. I could picture the dumpsters without even seeing them, because once you know, your mind builds the map for you. I sat there sweating in my own apartment with the heat on, like I could still smell the cold on her. I didn't call anyone. I didn't leave an anonymous tip. I didn't even search the address again because I was scared it would prove it. I wiped my dashcam SD card anyway. I told myself footage rolls over. I told myself nobody asked. I told myself I was just cleaning up old files. My hand shook the whole time. I drove past that block in daylight once. The street looked normal. Kids' bikes on a porch. No memorial, no tape, nothing that screamed what I'd helped do. That normalness pissed me off more than any cop could. I slept like trash for a week, and then I slept fine again, which felt worse. The app kept chirping at me. You're doing great. High completion drivers earn more. I wanted to smash my phone, then I opened the app anyway because I needed money and I'm a coward. After that, I started noticing stuff I'd never cared about. Bare feet on sidewalks. Single shoes on shoulders. Women walking fast with keys out. Every time a drunk passenger laughed too hard, I heard her breath hitch in my back seat. Every time someone's phone died and they asked for a charger, my throat tightened. I started ending trips early for dumb reasons, just to feel control, and I started picking fights because rage was easier than guilt. I kept waiting for consequences with a name on them. Police at my door, a subpoena, an email. We're investigating a serious incident. Nothing. Winter moved on. News moved on. The platform moved on. The only thing that stayed was the image of her hand, missing my handle by 2 inches, like she couldn't grab the one thing that could have kept her warm. Last month, the platform emailed me a safety champion badge for high completion rate. I put on my profile, and people tipped me for being reliable. I was a call center team lead chasing a promotion. I hated one rep who outperformed me and didn't kiss my ass, and my plan was to push her into a documented performance spiral using policy traps and constant metrics. My role gave me QA access, schedule control, and coaching notes, and my motive was control. Make her look unstable, then replace her. I didn't call it that in my head, though. In my head, it was standards and consistency and all that corporate trash that makes cruelty look tidy. She walked in, logged in, hit numbers, logged out. No small talk. No flatte. No, hey boss, anything I can do? She didn't need me, and that made me feel like I wasn't actually leading anything. The floor loved her because she handled the worst callers without melting down. My manager loved her because she made the dashboard look good. I hated her because she did it without giving me a single ounce of ego food. I had the access. QA tools, schedule tools, coaching notes, the little invisible switches that decide whether your day goes normal or turns into a fucking fight. I learned fast that if you control the paper, you control the truth. I started with time because time is quiet and deniable. I moved her breaks by 10 minutes, so she'd miss her kid's school pickup window. One drop down, one click, and it looked like coverage. Workforce pinged me about the change, and I answered with a volume screenshot and the same calm line everybody uses: business needs. She came to my desk with her face tight and asked why her break got moved. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't have to. I told her she needed to plan better, like people can plan around a school bell that doesn't care about call forecasts. She said the school charges late fees and won't hold kids past release. I told her to use PTO if it was that serious. I watched her swallow it like she was forcing it down. The next day, she came back from that shifted break 2 minutes late because she was calling the school and trying to get anyone, to keep her kid inside. 2 minutes is nothing in real life and everything on a wallboard. I logged it. No drama, just a note. Adherence missed, discussed expectations. I didn't warn her that I was building a chain. I just added the first link. The day after that, she tried to swap breaks with a coworker. I denied it and wrote, "No swaps during high volume," even though I approve swaps all the time when I like the person asking. She didn't yell. She just stared for a second, eyes glossy, then sat back down and clicked ready like a robot. That's what I wanted, compliance that costs something. Then I hit her where the numbers live. I assigned her the worst customer queue and then wrote her up for long calls. The queue was the pit. Fraud claims, cancellations, people already screaming before you finish your greeting, people who say they're recording and then try to bait you into slipping. She handled it anyway because she was good. She stayed on the line. She didn't dump calls back into the pool. She tried to fix things even when the customer didn't deserve it. Her average handle time jumped because angry people don't shut up, and I acted like she personally chose to waste time. I pulled recordings where customers monologue for 10 minutes straight, and I docked her for failure to control call flow. I circled timestamps like they were evidence in court. I compared her AHD to the team average like it was a moral defect. She asked why she was stuck in that queue so often. I told her it was a growth opportunity, and she should be grateful I trusted her. Then I went after tone, because tone is the easiest weapon. It's soft. It's subjective. It's impossible to disprove. I flagged her for tone when she sounded tired, then forced extra coaching sessions that ate her lunch. I clipped a call where she said, "Okay," instead of "absolutely," and labeled it lack of empathy. I clipped another where she exhaled after a caller screamed at her and tagged it as an audible sigh. I dragged her into a side room, replayed her voice, paused, rewound, paused again, and made her sit there while I typed notes like I was doing science. When she tried to explain context, I wrote defensive. When she went quiet, I wrote withdrawn. When she asked to reschedule because she needed to eat, I wrote unable to prioritize. Every reaction became a checkbox. Other leads started noticing, and it got tense. One of them muttered that I was riding her too hard. I asked him if he wanted her transferred to his pod so he could own her performance risk on his reports. He backed off because nobody wants the stinking writing. Another lead joked I was obsessed with her. I laughed like it was funny, then pulled another batch of her calls for QA the same afternoon. I needed her to feel watched, and I needed everyone else to see my attention as coaching, not what it actually was. She tried to push back the clean way. She sent an email with dates and receipts. Break moved, Q assignment, coaching session stacked on lunch, QA pulls back to back. It wasn't emotional. It was organized. That pissed me off worse than yelling would've, because organized looks credible. So I drowned in policy. I replied with quotes from the handbook and my own timestamps and copied my manager. I wrote it like I was helping. Happy to support. Expectations are consistent. We're here to develop you. My manager liked my tone. He liked the calm voice. He liked anything that didn't look like conflict. I also started sending wellness check emails to HR, so the paper trail read like concern, not punishment. I'd write that she seemed stressed, that I'd offered resources, that I'd suggested EAP. I attached coaching notes. It looked compassionate on the surface. Underneath, it was a trapdoor. If she complained, the file already said she was struggling. If she cried, it proved my concern. If she snapped, it proved instability. I wasn't just tightening screws. I was writing the excuse for why the screws existed. She started shaking on calls. Not cinematic shaking. Real little failures. Fingers missing mute. Hands hovering over the keyboard like she couldn't find her own shortcuts. A pen rolling off her desk because her grip wouldn't hold. She started apologizing for things she didn't do. A caller would rant about a policy older than both of us, and she'd say sorry like she invented it. She started asking permission for tiny things like she needed a hall pass to breathe. She'd come off a call and stare at the screen like she forgot the next step, then jerk back into motion when she saw me walk past. I heard the change in her voice in the recordings. Careful, thin, like she was trying not to trigger something. And I still scored her. I still wrote notes. I still acted like the notes were neutral. She filed a complaint once, and I answered it with my own notes, my own timestamps, my own calm voice. Everyone believed the calm voice. HR booked a meeting. She came in with her calendar and her notes. I came in with printed QA scorecards, adherence graphs, coaching logs, and my wellness emails. I didn't raise my voice once. I said patterns. I said support. I said concern. She tried to explain the break shift, the pickup window, the way she kept getting the worst cue, and HR asked if she had proof it was intentional. Proof. Like intent comes with a receipt. I had documentation. She had a tired face and a voice that kept catching. HR thanked me for being professional. My manager told me afterward he appreciated how composed I was. He said he didn't want drama. He said we need leaders who can manage personalities. That was basically permission. After that, the floor moved away from her like she was contagious. People stopped sitting near her because nobody wants to get pulled into a mess. She stopped eating lunch because I kept booking quick touch points right over it. Quick touch points that ran 30 minutes while her queue stacked up and the dashboard turned red, and I blamed her for it. She started coming back from the bathroom with her eyes wet and her jaw clenched. Once she stood at my desk and asked for one day, one fixed break time, because her kid was getting left with the office staff and she was running out of favors. I told her I'd see what I could do, and then I moved her break again the next week just to remind her who controlled her clock. She tried to brute force her way out by working harder. Came in early, stayed late, took more calls, handled the worst customers, still hit sales. It should have ended it. It should have made me back off. Instead, it pissed me off because it made my story harder to sell. So I tightened everything. More QA pulls, more tone flags, more coaching. I started warning her about a PIP in that corporate future tense tone, like I was doing her a favor preparing her. I scheduled her for closing shifts, then wrote her up when her wrap time ran long at the end of the night because her brain was cooked and she couldn't type fast enough. I kept my voice calm through all of it. Calm is what gets believed. The day she finally snapped, she didn't scream. She just went silent mid-call, headset still on, eyes fixed like she'd stepped out of her body. Her screen stopped moving. The call timer climbed, and she didn't type a single thing. I walked over and said her name. Nothing. I tapped her shoulder, and her whole body jerked, then went rigid again. The caller's voice leaked out, loud and angry, demanding a supervisor. Someone behind me swore. Another lead hit the floor manager button. People stood up in their pods like prairie dogs, then sat back down when their phones rang. Paramedics came. They spoke to her like she was there. She wasn't. They checked her pulse, asked questions, shined a light in her eyes. She didn't track it. They lifted her, strapped her down gentle. Her badge swung on the stretcher rail like a pendulum. A rep nearby started crying and then looked at me like she understood something she couldn't say out loud. I kept my face flat. I ended the call and coded it as a technical issue so it wouldn't hit our numbers. I finished the shift. I corrected her file while they rolled her out. I wrote, "Incident observed. Rep appeared disoriented. Prior wellness resources offered. Recommend HR follow-up." I attached the adherence misses, the QA fails, my own emails, the whole paper body I'd built around her, so anyone looking later would see a neat story. Her decline, my concern, my professionalism. 2 weeks later, I got promoted. I train new hires now on resilience. I say the word like it's a gift and not a weapon I use to grind someone into dust.